This is Mr. Coker with Algebra Lesson 2-1, Graphing Quadratics. When we're graphing quadratics, we want to put it in what's called vertex form. And in the video we're doing today, we're going to start in vertex form. In the next video, I'll talk about going from standard form to vertex form so you can graph. This is the equation that we'll start with. This will be the first one we look at, and it says y equals the quantity of x minus 2 squared minus 1. And you might notice that it looks different than the quadratics we were doing in the other video, in the other two videos, and that's because they were in what's called standard form, and this is again in vertex form. And the reason we put it in this form is so that we can easily find the vertex. So if you look at this, we have two numbers, and those are going to be the two numbers that make up the ordered pair of the vertex. The number in parentheses that's with x is going to be the x value, except we're going to, anytime it's in parentheses, we're going to take the sign and flip it. So instead of -2, we're going to have +2. And then the number off to the side by itself, the constant, -1, that's going to stay the same. So we have +2 and -1 is a vertex. And we're going to plot that vertex, 1, 2, over right 2, down 1, make a point. Now, to graph the rest of the quadratic, what we're going to do is follow this basic pattern, which is to go over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4. And the reason that we follow that pattern is that 1 squared is 1 and 2 squared is 4. That's one way that you can remember, and that's because of this. It's a quadratic, so it has the square in it. So I'm going to, from the vertex, I'm going to go on each side, I'm going to go over 1 and up 1. 1, 1, up, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 1, on both sides. Then I'm going to go not from those points, but from going back to the vertex, we're going to go over 2 and up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to make our graph. And you notice that it makes this U shape, and this is called a parabola. Parabola. So that's called a parabola. If it's a positive equation, it's going to go up, and then if it's a negative, and if it's a negative equation, so I'll do that as the second example. I'm going to keep the numbers the same, kind of to make the point here. So again, the vertex, because I didn't change the equation, the vertex will be the same. I don't think I need to go back through how to find it. So the vertex again is going to be at 2 and -1. Only now, because it's a negative, we're going to go down 1 and down 2. You'll see it's going to be just the opposite. So if it's a positive equation, we're going to graph going upward, and if it's negative, we're going down. Again, this is just like the first video I made about factoring quadratics when a equals 1. When a equals 1, you're always following a very basic pattern. Over 1, up 1, or down 1, and then over 2, up 4, or down 4. Well, what about if we change the equation? So I'm going to change the equation. I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to make it, instead, I'm going to keep the vertex the same, but I'm going to make it, instead of having no number out here, instead of having a equals 1, I'm going to make it a equals 2. So if we put a 2 out on the side, or in front of the parentheses, I mean, then that's what we're distributing. We're distributing the 2 before we square it. And it's going to, what it's going to do is narrow the shape of the parabola. What we're going to do, since we're multiplying the equation, or at least this part, the parentheses, was we're multiplying that by 2, what we want to do is multiply our output by 2. So the amount we're going over is, that's your x, and that's left and right. That would be our input, is another name for x on a graph. And up and down, the y value, is another name for it, would be output. So we can, what we're essentially doing is, since we're multiplying this by 2, we're multiplying our output by 2. We're doubling our output. So we're going to do 1 times 2 is 2, and 4 times 2 is 8. Now you can see we're not going to have room for that on this graph, but that's okay. What we're going to do now is, instead of worrying about, instead of going up 1, over 1 up 1, we're going to go over 1 up 2. So from the same point, or vertex, we're going to go over 1 and up 2, over 1 and up 2. Notice it's already getting smaller. And then we're going to go over 2, up 8. 1, 2, but instead of going 4, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It'll be kind of up here somewhere, kind of off the graph, but that's okay. 1, 2, from the vertex. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to have a narrower graph. Now, I didn't draw it perfectly. I kind of missed the thing, but you can see the kind of the point of it. So we're narrowing the graph, and all we're doing is changing the output. We're just multiplying the output. 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 2 is 8. And it doesn't matter what number you put in front of the parentheses. It's going to just be saying you just multiply. So one thing you could say also, if the bigger this number is, the more narrow the graph gets. But if we make the number smaller than 1, the smaller it gets, the more it will go outward. But if we made it 1/2, for instance, if we made it 1/2, we could use a different color, but then we would go, instead of over 1 up 1, we would go only 1/2. And then instead of going over 2 up 4, we would only go up 2, because 2 times half, 1/2 of 2 of the 1/2 of 4 is 2, so we would go up 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. And we would have a wider graph, as you can see. Anyway, so just to restate pretty much what I've said so far, let me restate it. Step 1, find the vertex. Number inside parentheses. You flip the side, make that the x value. Number outside parentheses. You do not flip the sign, you keep it the same, put it is the y value. Plot your vertex. Then you follow a basic pattern. Over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4. If it's negative, you'll go down. If it's positive, you'll go up. And if you have a number in a coefficient, a value, number in front of the parentheses, you multiply the output, the up and down value, output, by that number. And that's it. If you can find the vertex, follow the basic pattern. Graphing quadratics is easy. So, thanks for watching and have a nice day.